Biff, I want to use the Muppet cut early on.
Today and tomorrow. See what you can do online at socialsecurity.gov.
Over the years, you've brought opioids into your home. They helped when you were in pain, and you held on to them just in case. But holding on to opioids puts your family at risk. Learn more at www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
My little girl hurt her foot and needed a doctor fast, but her physician wasn't available, and I wanted her seen as soon as possible. Then I remembered the Wheeling Hospital Urgent Care, right in downtown Wheeling at the Stone Center on Market Plaza. Open 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day, the center is ideal if you have a sudden sickness or injury. The doctors and nurses were great, and they also provided x-rays, a pharmacy, and lab draw station. No appointments needed, and convenient parking is nearby. Wheeling Hospital Urgent Care. They'll take good care of you.
Hello, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm Darnell Foster. With a look at your local weather forecast to start your work week. You're going to see mostly cloudy skies with a few raindrops mixing in with some snowflakes through the day. The daytime high in the lower 40s. Your overnight low of 33 degrees with a few light snow showers expected. Otherwise, mostly cloudy conditions. A milder day with temperatures in the low 40s for your Tuesday. Have yourself a great day, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm Darnell Foster.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of this station or its sponsors.
I'm not a Monday guy.
I'm not crazy about it either. I also don't like Tuesdays, Wednesdays, or Thursdays.
Are you ready to go? I'm warning you, I'm seriously stressed out here.
You always drink like this so early in the morning?
Isn't it a bit early in the day for the bottle, even for you?
Keep your voice down. Your father's listening to the radio.
Make the radio call.
It's time to get up.
It's time to hear that pop.
This tape will self-destruct in 5 seconds.
We are go for launch.
Conversations you care about with people you know. This is the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe, brought to you in part by Wheeling Hospital.
Well, we got a lot to talk about today. Hopefully you'll join me on the phone lines. We'll have some fun. Got a lot of things I want to get into today. Some serious local and statewide stuff. A couple of stories off the beaten path that I want to take time to talk about. And we're kicking off a brand new week. Welcome to Monday. And down in the legislature in West Virginia, delegates are revisiting the previously approved school voucher bill after realizing, as I told them last week, that the amendments they put in may have bloated the cost of that bill dramatically. They passed the bill, passed amendments. Oh, it's moving, because we're on that fast train legislative action this year. Oh, we're going to get all of our Republican talking points turned into law at last. And they're not pausing for anything. And Democrats be damned. No, your amendments don't count. Come on, Republicans, you want to make things even worse. More amendments. We got all that going. We got it going. And we got it done. And then when it was all done, they said, oh, wait. Oh, no. No, that's not going to work. I told you this last week. So now they're revisiting that bill because they had budgeted around $23 million for the school voucher bill. And now some are saying $100 million and others are saying could be a whole lot more than that. We ain't got the money. So they're revisiting that. Meanwhile, a variety of other, what I'm calling anti-consumer bills, are working their way through the legislature as well. We will talk about all this morning with State Senator Bill Ehlenfeld, who's going to join us to update us on what's happening down there. Now, you'll never guess who needs a disclaimer on their TV re-airing. The following program may not be appropriate. Sometimes we need that. I was watching a new show last night. Stumbled across this. I'd never heard it. It's in season 3, I think. It's called The Oval, which is about the White House. And you know me, I love political shows. I never heard of it. It's on BET, Black Entertainment Television, BET. And it's called The Oval. It's about an interracial couple in the White House. And, oh, that's kind of interesting. I've never heard of it. Let me go look at it. And I did notice, the first thing I noticed is on the disclaimer, it says, will include violence, bad language, and nudity. And holy sweet Magoli did it. Oh, my Lord. First scene was a little bit of boom, boom, boom. Whew. So those disclaimers have some value, but you'll never guess who they're putting a disclaimer on. I'll tell you in a minute or two. Americans would give up a lot. What would you give up to be able to travel freely again? To not have COVID restrictions? To not have to be afraid to get on airlines? To be able to just go where you want to go? What would you give up? It's amazing the things the new survey shows that we would give up. I will tell you what that is in just a tad. And another new study, which I absolutely believe, and I weep for this. It says essentially everything we do anymore is defined by politics. The breakfast cereal we eat, the TV shows we watch, the friends we choose to hang out with, everything defined by politics anymore. And I think that's true. And I find that depressing. I'll give you some numbers to that coming up a little bit later on this morning. And then COVID deaths. COVID deaths are hitting an unbelievable milestone. 500,000 Americans dead. I posted a piece in the Washington Post on my Facebook and Twitter pages over the weekend, putting that in some different kinds of perspective. More people than many large American cities. Total number of people dead. The total number of people that can be buried in Arlington Cemetery, total number, is a little under 500,000. There's 400,000+ already buried in Arlington Cemetery. There's room for about another 95,000 more. Which means that the COVID deaths in this country would take the entire Arlington National Cemetery if we were to put them there. The numbers are staggering. And then there are still people who are, I'm not wearing a mask. Why do I wear a mask? This whole thing is a hoax. We're going to talk about all of that this morning. But the good news is the numbers do seem to be turning around. And we'll talk about the positive as well as the negative on this. Governor Justice, looking at the numbers turning around, is relaxing some guidelines. The state school board's going to relax some guidelines this week. And we'll talk about all of that. The Ohio County Health Department Administrator Howard Gamble coming in to discuss that with us as well. Early morning snow, changing to rain for the Ohio Valley throughout the day today. Not a bad day. Going to be close to 40 today. Currently, it is 35 degrees at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport. A little bit of wind blowing around, making it feel like 26. 35 at the airport, 35 at my home studios here in Elm Grove, and 35 degrees at the Robinson Auto Group Studios. Downtown Wheeling in the heart of the Ohio Valley, where Brother Biff is hanging out this morning. Good weekend, Biffy?
Yeah, really didn't do anything.
That's a good weekend.
Yeah, I mean, wasn't too much going on, so just kind of took it easy this weekend.
No Nailers action this weekend? At least not here?
No, they were in Fort Wayne and lost all 3 games over the weekend.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
so
okay.
It was a lost weekend in Fort Wayne for the Nailers.
Okay, all right.
So I'm sure Bill today will have DJ on at some point to go over the bad weekend in Fort Wayne.
Okay, all right. So I know that's frequently where you go when when they're in town, but not in town. So just hanging out and doing not much this week. Any good food this weekend? That's also what I like to ask.
Good food. We had chili last night for dinner.
That sounds good. That's good.
Friday, obviously, we had fish.
Yeah.
And what did I have Saturday? Oh, I had leftovers on Saturday.
Leftovers
for dinner.
not bad. You can live with leftovers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. My wife made hamburgers last night. You ever notice how you get the taste for something by saying, I was watching an episode of NCIS. You know, we watch NCIS all the time. Watching an episode of NCIS, and DiNozzo was eating this big old juicy burger of some kind. And I said, "Oh, that burger looks good. I want a hamburger." I mean, I didn't want to go to McDonald's or something. I wanted a real juicy burger with all the fixings and the toppings and stuff on it. So, my wife made burgers last night. So we had burgers and baked beans last night here at home. But she's been doing a lot of good cooking. I mean, it's not fancy stuff, just good cooking here at home. Saturday we had lunch, just hot dogs and tomato soup. Yeah, baby. That works for me. And I'm trying to think, did we order out? I don't know. I'm sure we did. Well, of course, breakfast. You know what breakfast has been.
Oh, yeah, sausage, gravy, and biscuits.
Yeah, absolutely. So, ate well, but not fancy this weekend. We ate well, but not fancy. 7:17 here on the Watchdog Morning Show. All right, let's delve into a couple of things. Biffy, you heard me talking about disclaimers, warnings they put on TV shows or movies if they're running them on streaming services or so on. Warnings about potential offensive content coming up. And there's value in that, right? I mean, I think being alerted to potential problems is good. As I said, I'm glad I was given a little warning about the show that I watched last night called The Oval, that there was going to be nudity and sexual explicitity in it, because, oh my God, were they just bing-a-bang-a-bong-bong-bong right there on the very first scene. Would have been a bit of a startle if I hadn't seen the warning about it. So I get the idea of putting a warning up there. But, there's some things you say to yourself, seriously? There's offensive content in this show? Well, this is the show I'm talking about.
It's the Muppet Show with our special guest star, Miss Candace Bergen. Woo!
It's time to play the music. It's time to light the light. It's time to meet the Muppets on the Muppet Show tonight.
I mean, we got Kermit the Frog, we got Cookie Monster, we got Elmo, we got them all on the Muppet Show. What in God's name could be offensive about the Muppet Show? But apparently, Disney says the show includes some, quote, negative depictions or mistreatments of people or culture. You gotta be kidding me. The disclaimer says the stereotypes were wrong then and are wrong now. Rather than remove the content, we want to acknowledge its harmful impact, learn from it, and spark conversation to create a more inclusive future together. My question is this. How many kids watching The Muppet Show are going to be saying, oh my, that's offensive content? Aren't we kind of being a little overly protective for kids? The Muppet Show, for God's sake. You watch The Muppet Show, Biffy?
Yeah,
right?
when I was little, it was.
Well, I didn't mean last night. I mean, but you watched the Muppet Show when you were a kid. Yeah. Everybody did. I watched The Muppet Show. My kids watched The Muppet Show. They have a different version of it out now. Teddy's seen a little bit of it. I mean, it's The Muppet Show. Talking characters teaching kids. Comes out of Sesame Street. It's not the same as Sesame Street, a point they often make, but it came out of Sesame Street. Do we really need an offensive content warning? Stereotypes. I'm trying to think what I want to say. We give kids too much credit or not enough credit, but I just don't think little kids watching shows like that are going to be bothered or assimilate something terrible from the Muppets. They're puppets. They're puppets. It's not real. I don't know. I don't know. The Muppet Show is getting some offensive content warnings. Let's see. Several episodes of the show that ran from 76 to 81 are being shown with disclaimers. 18 separate episodes have the brief disclaimer for varying reasons, including negative depictions of Native Americans, Middle Easterners, and people from other countries. Terrible here. Terrible, Biffy. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Johnny Cash was on the show. And he was singing in front of a Confederate flag. Well, there's offensive content for you. I mean, you all know, I think the Confederate flag should be put on the dustbin of history. But Johnny Cash, in the 1970s and early 80s, was singing in front of a Confederate flag. It was there, for God's sake.
Again, go back and look at the time that it happened in, and that was, and again, it goes back to, the part of history that don't you want people to know that? I mean, that's a sign of the times back in the 70s. That's the way it was.
That's the way it was. That's the way it was. And I guess I give Disney credit. What Disney is saying is, look, we're going to leave these things in. We're not going to cut them out. Cancel culture, as they call it, which I hate that phrase. But we're not going to take them out. But we're going to put a little alert on there, a little warning. And I mean, it's okay. It's not. It doesn't just drive me crazy. I don't think it's a terrible thing. But the thought that the Muppets require an offensive content warning is crazy. But apparently, it's not just the Muppets. Disney is also putting offensive content warnings on Peter Pan. The Jungle Book. What? The Jungle Book? What's that great song from the Jungle Book? It's a song I like to sing from the Jungle. I can't think of. Lady and the Tramp. Oh yeah, you got talking dogs. No wonder that's pretty offensive stuff. Dumbo, the elephant, all are getting their own disclaimer because of some things that are in there. And again, I commend Disney for not taking the things out or not say, well, we can't show those movies anymore because but I don't know. Maybe it's the right thing to do. Maybe a disclaimer in front of everything is the right thing to do. But it just, when I saw the headlines, like, who in the world are we going to, who's got the offensive content? The Muppets?
Yeah, that would be...
The Muppets?
That would be one of the last things you would think of.
So if you watch it the good news is, I guess it tells me it's on Disney Plus, so I'll have to go and watch it, and maybe Teddy would like to see some episodes of the Muppets. And he'll probably go, Daddy, Granddad, Why is that man singing in front of the Confederate flag? Jeez. Have to explain it to you now, Teddy. All right, 7:24 after the hour. It's the morning show here on the Watchdog. 304-214-1600 is our text line if you want to use it. 304-214-1600. Feel free to hop aboard and let me know what you think about the Muppets or anything else. You can also use our CityNet hotline at 304-232-8255. 304-232-TALK. Happy to have you pick up the phone and dial in if you want to do that as well. If you're watching us on Facebook Live video, I want to thank you. Thanks for watching us on our Facebook Live video feed. It's on my Facebook page, on the Watchdogs Facebook page. We appreciate your checking in on the video cast of us as well. You can also catch our YouTube channel if you'd like to. Easiest way to get to that is going to watchdognetwork.com, and then we've got a YouTube link right there. And that'll take you to our live feed as well as to all of our archived video casts. This show, Bill DeFabio's show, Big Rick, and everybody else will have their shows archived there. And you can watch us straight off of watchdognetwork.com as well. If you do watch us, you know what I ask you to do? 2 things. What are they, Biffy?
Like and share.
That's it. Hit the like button and then hit the share button. And share us with your friends on your timeline or your news feed or in your news group. So please do that for us. And thank you for watching as well as listening to the Watchdog Morning Show. It's 7:26 after the hour as we move along on a Monday.
Plumbers and Steam Fitters Local 83 want to thank the owners and contractors of the
Go it alone. If you're hurt in an accident, call us at 304-242-2900 or visit us at gelnerlaw.com.
We'd like to help.
From the Watchdog Network, right now traffic. Here's the latest from the Robinson Auto Group Traffic Center.
Traffic near the Highlands, on Washington Avenue, and on the Fort Henry Bridge is all clear. Traffic near the Ohio Valley Mall, on 70 and 470, and on State Route 7 is running smoothly. The lane width reductions on the eastbound entrance ramp and westbound exit ramp to Wheeling Island will continue. The closure of I-70 from US 250 and West Virginia 2 south, the 16th Street exit to the Ogilvy Park exit for Phase 2 of the Fulton Bridge replacement project will continue. The closure of the US 250 North on-ramp to I-70 East as part of Phase 2 will continue. The Market Street overpass width reduction will continue. I-70 construction will continue westbound where crossovers are in effect. And all existing detours and closures will continue for the I-70 Bridges project. Follow Ohio Valley Traffic Report on Facebook, WTRF 7 News, and the Watchdog for updates.
Hello, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm Darnell Foster. With a look at your local weather forecast to start your work week. You're going to see mostly cloudy skies with a few raindrops mixing in with some snowflakes through the day. The daytime high in the lower 40s. Your overnight low of 33 degrees with a few light snow showers expected. Otherwise, mostly cloudy conditions. A milder day with temperatures in the low 40s for your Tuesday. Have yourself a great day, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm Darnell Foster.
Hello, Ohio Valley. This is Kate Delaney inviting you to join me overnight here on the Watchdog. Whether it's talking to big names in entertainment or sports, discussing the latest political news, or just chatting about life, I'll be here to keep you company on the Watchdog, WVLY AM 1370, FM 97.7, or online at watchdognetwork.com.
Watch out! He could climb on his soapbox at any time. The Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe continues.
We're going to be hitting a COVID milestone this week, maybe today. 500,000 people dead from COVID. Still, the COVID numbers are turning around, as I said. We're beginning to see the number of cases go down, the number of hospitalizations go down. So there's good news in that. We'll talk about the good news and the bad news all coming up a little bit later on. Howard Gamble from the Health Department is going to join us to get reaction to Governor Justice's loosening of some of the guidelines, for example. We're all beginning to start thinking about getting back to real life, you know. We're still a long way away from that, I think, but we're starting to think about it. We're seeing the numbers go down. We're seeing more and more of us, and I'm now in that category, that are fully vaccinated. So, you know, thinking about that. And Biffy, as you all know, there's two things that I've said I particularly miss. What's the one thing I miss the most about this because of this pandemic?
Eating lunch.
Lunch. It's lunch without any question. I miss lunch. I miss the possibility of getting together with my friends and going out to one of our local restaurants and having a nice lunch and then sitting around drinking a cup of coffee and having a chat for a little while into the afternoon. That's lunch. It's not the eating process. I still eat lunch, but it's the concept which is called lunch. That's the number one thing I miss. But I'll tell you, I am among those who also really misses traveling. My wife and I have been doing a lot of traveling before the pandemic. We had some travel plans for last year that got canceled. Hopefully we'll get back into the travel mode again. The hotel firm Trivago did a survey, and 81% of Americans said that not being able to travel has been one of the worst parts of the pandemic. Now, it's done by a hotel firm, so, you know, take that with some grain of salt. I think probably a lot of people feel that maybe not being able to see their loved ones would be a bigger deal than not being able to travel and so on. But in this survey, 81% of Americans said not being able to travel has been one of the worst parts of the pandemic. 48% said they would give up their jobs in order to be able to travel. 25% said they give up all their money, give up all their savings to be able to travel. Now, the question would rise in my mind, how are you going to pay for it?
Yeah.
If you give up all your savings, how do you plan to pay for that travel you want to do? You going to walk, hitchhike, bum some food from? So that's not travel to me. I don't know. So anyways, but 20% said they would, 25% said they would give up all their savings. 20% say they would leave their significant other in order to go traveling. That's not a strong couple. That's not a strong couple. Honey, I think I'm going to leave you now. Oh no, is it another woman? No. I think I'd like to go traveling. Oh dear. And I guess sort of connected to that, 38% of the people surveyed say they give up sex for a year in order to be able to go traveling. Oh, man. I want to travel, but I'm not giving up the job. I'm not giving up my wife. No, I'm sorry. I want to travel, but not that badly. Good news for Bill Bryson and our friends at Uniglobe, though. 72% of the people surveyed said that when the pandemic is over, they plan to travel even more than they had in the past. And you know what, Biffy? I think I believe that. When you realize you can't do something because the pandemic has now said you can't travel, it kind of makes you realize that you ought to do it when you can.
Yeah, just how how important it really is to you.
Right, exactly. And I'm thinking a lot of people probably, one of these days we'll go traveling. And then suddenly you can't go traveling. You go, I was going to go this year. So, yeah, it doesn't surprise me. 72% say they plan to travel even more than they had in the past once the pandemic is over. So it is the second thing I'm looking forward to the most. Number one is lunch, but number two is getting back and doing some traveling, and I'll have to see where our friends at Unilab are going to be going late in the year. It's going to be a while before I'm comfortable. I don't know when I'll be comfortable flying again. Getting into airplanes with recirculated air, yeesh. But travel, I want to go. I want to get out on the road and go again. I was never a real big traveler much of my life. We always did a beach vacation once a year, but we've gotten into this traveling a whole lot more thanks to our friends at Uniglobe. And I'm with this group of people, not giving up the job or giving up my wife, but I'm with the group that says missing travel is one of the biggest things that they miss. 7:36, 24 before the hour here on the Watchdog Morning Show. We are looking at maybe some very light snow this morning, then it'll turn to rain. Warmer day today, going to push around 40 today. That almost seems like a heat wave to me. Got up to go to preach yesterday. I was my first day back preaching in Dillonville. And so I got ready to go out the door, and I thought, I wonder what the temperature is. 7 degrees. Ay.
Oh, you felt it when you walked out if you had to be out early yesterday morning.
Yeah, it warmed up meaning like to the mid-20s, but it warmed up fairly quickly. But man, it's 7 degrees when I first left the house to go to Dillonville. And there was a wind chill, so it made like a 3. I think it was 3. Maybe it was -3. I can't remember. I think it was maybe -3. Because my wife said, what's the temperature? And I said, well, -3. Jeez. We're out of that, at least for the next day or two. We'll find out how the weather's going to be with Zach Petty coming up next. First, though, let's check some headlines for you from our friends of the Big Seven. Mr. DeFabio is here. Billy's got the Monday morning sports report. And then we'll talk in with Zach and find out what the forecast is like. It's coming up here on the Watchdog Morning Show.
The WTRF Channel 7 News Update is brought to you by Thomas Auto Centers, Mall Road, St. Clairsville. Get the best deal at Thomas Auto Centers.
Now it's time for your local news headlines from 7 News at WTRF, My Ohio Valley, and ABC Ohio Valley. Only on AM 1600 WKKX. The Watchdog.
Good Monday morning, Ohio Valley. I'm Stephen Ruffing with your 7 News headlines. Continuing coverage, Jeffrey White has been formally charged with first-degree murder and burglary in connection to the early Saturday morning death of a Wellsburg resident. White was arraigned yesterday by the Brooke County Magistrate, and a felony prelim will begin in the next 10 days. Stay with 7 News for any updates. Following the news that Governor Justice will allow restaurants in West Virginia to have 75% capacity, chefs are firing up ovens in preparation. But it's not just food places. Last week he announced bars, restaurants, and clothing stores can now allow more people into their businesses. However, bars are still not allowed to have standing room or have people congregate. Many business owners say they are just happy they can now serve more customers. If you decide to warm your vehicle up this morning, make sure it's not in your garage. AAA is also reminding drivers that vehicle exhaust contains poisonous carbon monoxide that can cause injury or even death if it's inhaled. More than 400 Americans die every year from unintentional poisoning not linked to fires, with thousands hospitalized. The group says cars are designed to operate in winter as soon as you turn them on and buckle your seatbelt. And for the first time since November 12th, the Mountain State is reporting fewer than 9,000 active cases. The color-coded map appears to be getting greener every day, but our area is still seeing mixed results. Hancock, Ohio, and Wetzel all saw increases to their infection rate, earning Ohio County a spot in the gold category. That was a look at your headlines. Have a great day, everyone.
Not a good weekend for the Wheeling Nailers. They lost 3 in a row to Fort Wayne. Meanwhile, it was a pretty good weekend. Very good Saturday for the Pittsburgh Penguins. They downed the New York Islanders 3-2. But the big storyline in that contest, not the W, Sid Crosby played in his 1,000th career game. And Crosby will make it 1,001 Tuesday night when the Penguins at 9-6-1 visit the 9-5-3 Washington Capitals. I watched an interesting game last night at Lake Tahoe. Game played outdoors. The Boston Bruins ripped the Philadelphia Flyers 7-3. David Pastrnak recorded a hat trick for Boston. Pretty good weekend for the West Virginia Mountaineers. They're ranked 13th in the nation. They beat number 12 Texas in Texas 84-82. In auto racing at Daytona, Christopher Bell was the winner. Be safe, considerate of others. Please check on the elderly. I'm Bill DeFabio, and we are the Watchdog.
The Storm Tracker 7 team is here to warn you when winter weather will affect.
Stock starting under $5,000. Most are local trades, many with one owner. Hurry to Jim Robinson at the Highlands, home of lifetime powertrain protection.
The perfect cure for your quarantine blues. The Watchdog on Facebook Live. Watch The Watchdog weekdays on Facebook Live, beginning with the morning show with Howard Monroe at 7 a.m. Local talk radio, Watchdog style. Give us a call and tell us what you're thinking. Locally, 304-214-1600. Out of the area, toll free, 866-514-1600 or 304-232-8255.
There's a time and a place for everything, including a different point of view. This is that time and place. You're listening to the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe, brought to you in part by Wheeling Hospital.
35 degrees at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport. A little bit of wind, 14-mile-an-hour wind at the moment. Makes it feel like 26 degrees. I'm checking the traffic cams, scanning around the upper Ohio Valley. I don't see much snow coming down. At least doesn't seem to be much snow coming down this morning. We had some earlier this morning, flakes and flurries. We're going to see any more winter weather during the day today, Zach Petty?
Hey, good morning, Howard. It looks like we're in the clear in terms of winter weather for the beginning of your work week. We're getting that warmer air aloft as well as here at the surface. So most of all, precipitation will be falling as rain for the rest of the day.
All right, that's good. And it's going to be comparatively warm. We're going to be pushing close to 40 for the day, right?
Oh, yeah, it is certainly a nice flip of the script from the mid to upper 20s for our highs last work week as well as what it felt like forever. I mean, I just went back to check some records. We're actually 26 consecutive days of temperatures below 40.
Wow.
Which is kind of impressive.
It's hand cold. It was this cold. When I was just telling the audience when I went out of the house yesterday morning, early, 8:30 to be precise. Temperature was 7. It was just like, oh man, 7 degrees, please. Now it warmed up fairly quickly, and warmed up meaning to the 20s, but it's just been frigid cold for the last couple of weeks. So, all right. So today is a fairly calm and quiet day. Temperature's going to be 40. Is that near temperate for this time of year? Is that seasonable, 40 degrees? I don't really know.
Correct. The normal high temperature for the Ohio Valley is 41. So,
Okay,
again, on par for seasonable finally.
All right. Now, is this a sign then that maybe all the winter trouble is behind us and we can start thinking about spring?
I will tentatively say yes, because I haven't looked into long range anything. Let's get through this week, Howard, but certainly Wednesday is going to be probably your favorite day of this year, because we'll go through tomorrow. So tomorrow, breezy conditions as well. We'll deal with the gray and overcast skies. I don't expect to see any precipitation to fall. But I'm most excited to tell you, 51 for your expected high on Wednesday. Partly cloudy skies, calm winds. Looks like that's going to be the best day of the year so far for you weather-wise.
51 degrees. Wow.
Yeah, it wasn't a typo.
So, well, that's good. And then really it looks like the week is going to be okay, right? We don't have too much to talk about all week long.
No, yeah, finally a quiet, calm, nothing to talk about, which I will be pleasantly happy, because I feel like I think you cursed me, Howard, whenever you said, you haven't really had too much to talk about. You had just gray and overcast for that beginning week of January. And then ever since then, I feel like I was running like a chicken with my head cut off ever since then, with all the winter weather we've had with snow and the ice event and just headaches, I tell you. But I will certainly be okay trying to fill 3 minutes of, hey, I don't have anything to really talk about, but let's just enjoy it.
I'm with you on that. Yeah, the last couple of weeks this has been really, it may not be going to the record books per se, but the first winter here in Wheeling has certainly been an intense one. We have had a lot more snow, the ice. This has been and cold. This has been an unusual winter compared to the last 2 or 3 at least.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, dating back to some of Dr. Dave's records. I mean, normally we see about 35 inches of snow. We've gotten 40 so far. Last winter, only 17. The winter before that, right around 29. Certainly one I will always remember. That is for sure, just because it's, like you said, it's just been all over the place, from ice to snow, with the freezing temperatures, especially extending all as far south as Texas. And I mean, we talked on Friday about them, and they're still digging out, well, not so much digging out, but trying to get power restored, and all sorts of issues with trying to get food shipped in, and just a mess out there, I tell you.
Yeah. Do you think exciting over the weekend, or just kind of hang out?
Oh, I just hung out and I slept, just because last week really did me dirty with all the weather and changing and coming in early and trying to get a grasp of the forecast. And I definitely took some much-needed rest and recoup, that was for sure.
Yeah, the last couple of weeks have been, it isn't just that we had a lot of winter weather, but it just seemed, they came in waves. You know, we'd have a couple of days of just really, we had the heavy snow, what's been 2 weeks ago, I guess, with, significant accumulations, a lot of road problems, and then calmed down for like a day. Then came the ice storm. I mean, it kind of came in waves. It had to have kept you off balance a bit.
Oh, it certainly kept me on my toes, and it was such a fluid situation where one model run would come in like, oh, it's going to be all snow. Next one, oh, looks like it's going to be rain. Third one, oh, looks like a wintry mix. So what do we say? Because there's like no consistency. So it certainly kept, especially for me, because I take a lot of pride in my forecasting and try to get it right, and I spend a lot of time on it to try to do diligence, as everyone does, but I don't know, I'm a lot harder on myself than I would say others are. And I don't know, just kept me on my toes, and was definitely upset at some of the forecasts that I would say would happen, and then all of a sudden we would get some upper level warm air, and then we would see a changeover a lot sooner than I expected or than I said. So I took it personally at times. So it was just nice to calm down and just enjoy it. And hopefully this coming work week will be a lot easier forecast wise, which as of now, knock on wood, we're looking to be that way.
It's hard not to take it personally though, because a lot of people call you out personally, right?
Sure. Yeah, exactly. Which is a lot easier to be keyboard warriors, as the phrase in media, I guess. But we're out there in the public eye, which, hey, I understand you can say those sort of things, but at the same time, some people do take it personally because it is our profession. So, I mean, same thing with you. You've probably been dealing with criticism for many, many years for you being in radio broadcast, and I'm just starting off, so I just have to develop the sense of thick skin to not take it to heart and just to kind of turn the page and move on to the next day.
Yeah, you just at some point you have to decide who to listen to and who not. And
right.
So, and sometimes you get criticism that's fair, right? I mean, at least I found
right.
that sometimes people criticize and go, you know what? That's a good point. They made a good point. I shouldn't have said that, or I did that wrong. But most of the time, it's just people, especially anymore, especially since the rise of Facebook and Twitter and stuff. It's just, and being able to offer comments on social media. It's just people who have nothing else to do in their life.
Right.
It's easier. They live in a critical world.
Right. Yeah, it's easier just to say something, to just say it because they have the time, or you're doing your Facebook Live, or you just push something out, and it's either irrelevant to what my comments or my post was, and it's just kind of like, well, what's it mean to you? Like, did it really impact you that much that you have to go out and really say it? So, I don't know, sometimes it just makes me laugh and shake my head, where others, it's like, you don't really have to say those sort of things, especially whenever it's been as tough as a winter as it has been.
Well, and there's also, I know you want to, probably you don't, neither do I, but, actually I do sometimes. But what you want to say is, why don't you try it?
Yep.
Why don't you try it?
Yeah. Come in was like, if it was as easy as they think, or, you're right 50% of the time. Well, you're more so, you get remembered by being wrong, I guess. And okay, yes, has there been some times where we busted the forecast, where we've gotten it wrong? Yes, but you're also predicting the future. And as you and I have talked before, Mother Nature, she has her own thoughts and intentions on what the Ohio Valley sees. So we just have to figure out.
She's got a sense of humor. She's got a sense of humor.
She certainly does. That is for sure. She says, you think we're going to see that? Nah, we'll throw in that warmer air so we see only rain.
She says, Monroe, you said you want a little bit of snow on Christmas? Yeah, I'll give you snow on Christmas. And then we'll have the winter come. No. Didn't ask for all that. I just wanted that little Christmas snow. But now you give me all this. Anyway.
Yep, 40 inches later.
Exactly. The good news is this week's a good week. 40 degrees or close to it today for our high. Not much to worry about as far as snow or anything of that nature. And we'll stay that way for a good bit of the week. So it's a good forecast and should be a good week. And 51 degrees or thereabouts on Wednesday. That's really phenomenal. I feel like I have hope. I have hope.
Let's hope we hover around that 50. Upper 40s we can deal with, low 50s we can deal with, but hopefully we don't somehow drastically change to the 30s. But as of now, I'm not expecting it to see that way. But again, we've been humbled before by Mother Nature, so
that's exactly
as we say this, it'll be cold Arctic blast. All of a sudden, we're -2 for our high, and it'll be like, it's great. I just vented
really
about
cold Arctic blast, yeah. All right, Zach, I appreciate it, my friend. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Thanks for a good forecast today. Talk to you soon.
Yep. Thanks for talking. I appreciate it. We'll talk to you later.
All right, Zach Petty from the Big 7, WTRF TV. It has to be one of the most thankless jobs in broadcasting, Biff, is the weather forecaster.
Yeah, I would say so.
Because everybody thinks that they can do it better. Oh, you said 38 degrees and it was 40. How about you come in and give it a try? Now, sometimes they're way off. It happens. You know why it happens? Because the weather is a mess. And it happens even more so anymore because we have global climate change to deal with. That global climate change is all a hoax. Okay. All right. Well, maybe. But
and how many times have we seen, say like with temperatures, it rises a degree or two. I mean, that's the difference between a rain and a snow or a mix or whatever else. I mean, you think a system's going one way and all of a sudden it goes the other way and you don't expect it. I mean, things happen, but I'd say for the most part, it's usually good.
And look, there are times they just plain get it wrong, period. And that just happens. And they will generally say, oh man, we got that wrong. I mean, it happens. And they get it wrong usually because of the way the weather has worked out. You think you're predicting a storm coming here and suddenly, the high Arctic winds come. I don't know what I'm talking about, because I'm not a weatherman, but, you get this, isobar or atmospheric whatever, and it's like,
Or the example I think we familiar with in the summertime, all of a sudden it's a nice day, and gradually it's like, okay, well it's going to storm, and you look on radar and there's nothing there, and for whatever reason you get a pop-up thunderstorm just happens to be in your area.
Exactly.
I mean, stuff like that. We've seen it before.
Yeah. So I have great sympathy for all the weather folks. But Zach, as a youngster, has really been, I mean, he may take it internally, I don't know, but he's been pretty good about taking the criticism that people give him. And I don't know if I know Emily would tell me she used to get stopped like at a Kroger's or something. You're the weather woman. Boy, you messed up the other night. It's like she would say, I'm just here to buy mayonnaise, seriously.
Yeah, leave me alone, all right? I mean, come on.
Alone. Exactly right. We are on the brink of a horrible COVID number. Now, the good news is there's positive COVID numbers I want to talk about, but we are on the brink of a horrible COVID number. We anticipate reaching 500,000 coronavirus death, according to the data from Johns Hopkins University. As of early this morning, it was 498,900. We'll be heading close to 500,000 people dead. As I mentioned, if you want to look at some comparisons, my Facebook page, I posted a Washington Post article that trying to put that in some perspective, in terms of, it's the entire population of some large cities in America. It is the one that really stuck in my head. In Arlington National Cemetery in D.C., and if you ever go there, you see row upon row upon row upon row of tombstones of American servicemen. Arlington National Cemetery has a total of a little under 500,000 burial plots. There's 400 and some odd thousand already buried there, and they have room for about another 95,000. So if we were to bury all of the people who have died from COVID, it would take the entire, not what's left of Arlington Cemetery, it would take the entire Arlington Cemetery. And yet we still have people saying, well, it's all a hoax, why do we care? We have these yabalonis down in Charleston that are wearing jock straps on their face. Have you seen some of those pictures, Biffy?
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like they're wearing jock straps on their face. And that what it is they're mocking the mask. The one that just irritates me the most, because he's always irritated me, is Senator Robert Karnes. He's the guy who called the hardworking men and women of our laboring union freeloaders a couple of years ago. He was kicked out of office, and then he got reelected again. And he's got, it looks like I swear to goodness, it looks like he's got his jock strap on his face. It's the like the straps of a mask, but there's no mask there. And he's not alone. There are several others as well, mocking the mask. 500,000 people are dead. 500,000 people. More than any war in America, with the exception of the Civil War. More than any war in America, people are dead from COVID. And you want to put the jockstrap on your face to make some stupid idiot point? I don't know even what the point is. It's just unbelievable. I may share a bit more thoughts on that with you coming up in the next hour of the show. And we'll focus our attention on the legislature for a couple of minutes when Senator Ehlenfeld joins us. And that is straight ahead after the news, which is next. It's 8 o'clock here on the Watchdog Morning Show.
The Watchdog is FM 98.1, AM 1600 WKKX Wheeling, FM 97.7, AM 1370 WVLY Moundsville.
The ABC News is brought to you by Thomas Auto Centers, Mall Road, St. Clairsville. Get the best deal at Thomas Auto Centers.
From ABC News.
Should be Ehlenfeld in this hour, or this segment, I should say. And Howard Gamble supposedly at 8:40. I'll have to text him to remind him, though.
Tactics we have to slow this virus down. Remember, wear a mask, stay apart, and wash your hands.
For all of your IT needs, visit OmniPerforms.com. Omni Strategic Technologies, the only IT company that the watchdog trusts.
A serious injury from an accident can be just the start of your worries. What if you cannot return to work? How do you take care of your family if you're disabled? At Gelner Law Offices, we represent seriously injured people and understand their problem. We know how to get you fair compensation. We will work hard to make sure you get the money you deserve for your losses. Don't go it alone. If you're hurt in an accident, call us at 304-242-2900 or visit us at gelnerlaw.com.
We'd like to help.
Hello, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm Darnell Foster with a look at your local weather forecast to start your work week. You're going to see mostly cloudy skies with a few raindrops mixing in with some snowflakes through the day. The daytime high in the lower 40s. Your overnight low of 33 degrees with a few light snow showers expected. Otherwise, mostly cloudy conditions. A milder day with temperatures in the low 40s for your Tuesday. Have yourself a great day, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm Darnell Foster.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of this station or its sponsors.
This is the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe and Brad Leonard behind the board in the producer's chair.
Well, let's see. The Muppets apparently need a disclaimer on their Disney Plus airings. We were talking about that last hour. What would you give up to be able to travel freely again? I want to get back onto the travel cycle again. I want to go places and do things, but I'm not sure I agree with this new survey that said people would give up their job, their savings, or their significant other to go traveling again. I think you need the job and the savings to go traveling with your significant other, but hey, to each their own, I guess. Another new study I'll get to a little bit later on is disquieting, but I believe it absolutely to be true. Everything we do anymore, from the food we eat to the friends that we make, tends to be defined by our politics. You know, I can remember a time, I don't want to go back to when I was a kid, although I could go back to when I was a kid. Even when I started this business, we didn't define everything by politics. Now, everything is defined by politics. In this hour of the show, we'll talk about COVID a bit. COVID deaths hit a milestone, but the numbers do seem to be turning around. Governor Justice has relaxed some guidelines. Ohio County Health Administrator Howard Gamble joins us a bit later on to discuss that. And the legislature is still moving very quickly. We focus mainly on the delegate side of things. Among other things, delegates are revisiting that previously approved school voucher bill after they realized they moved so quickly that nobody bothered to pay attention to how much it's going to cost. And they have to go back and revisit that. There are a lot of other bills that are pending as well. And we'll talk here about the Senate, because we haven't really spent a lot of time talking about what the Senate is working on. And to help us do that is our friend Senator Bill Ehlenfeld. Senator, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Howard. Good morning. Happy Monday.
Things are moving quickly down there. At least we've seen that on the delegate side of things. The Senate moving along pretty quickly as well?
Yeah, it is. We have been moving bills through committees pretty rapidly. There are a number of bills that are single reference, which means it just goes to one committee and then it hits the floor. That's not the case for all of the bills, but we've had some like that. And we've had some already voted some bills out of the Senate and sent them over to the House, and we'll do that again today. We've got a couple of bills on third reading today, including one related to strikes or work stoppages by public employees. So, yeah, things are moving quickly, and there have been some really interesting bills that we've discussed in committee and on the floor.
The COVID immunity bill did pass the Senate. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, it passed the Senate on Friday. I was one of 9 to vote against it, and I stood up and spoke against it and then also voted against it. And they call it the COVID Jobs Security Act or the COVID Jobs Recovery Act. They put the title on it so that someday a political opponent of mine can say, look, he voted against the COVID Jobs Recovery Act.
Exactly.
And he's against jobs, and of course I'm not against jobs, but the bill we passed out of the Senate, and I'm hopeful that the House will fix it, is the most extreme, far-reaching COVID liability bill in the entire country. We researched it, and no state has gone as far as West Virginia. And of course, this isn't law yet, but if it were to become law, no state has gone this far. And one of the things I talked about on the floor last week was the fact that some pretty red states, including Georgia, have passed COVID liability bills. And the basic concept is just that it gives some level of comfort to healthcare workers and businesses that if there's someone becomes injured or dies from COVID, and that litigation will be somewhat limited. So a state like Georgia put a bill like that into place, and they just recently extended it, in fact. But it says if someone is reckless or they intentionally inflict harm upon someone or they're grossly negligent, then they don't have that immunity. And so, for example, if your dentist tests positive for COVID, yet he wants to keep the money flowing to his dental practice and comes in and puts his hands in your mouth anyhow and fixes your cavity and spreads the virus and you become infected and die, your family would have no recourse in West Virginia under the bill that we passed. So it really goes incredibly far, and that's why I voted against it. But there were only 8 others that joined me.
It actually, though, is part of this ongoing effort that we've seen in the legislature for the last number of years to limit the ability of consumers to get redress for problems. I mean, this legal liability issues have been out there before, and we've seen some of them pass already. And this is just part of an ongoing effort to try to, I think, to keep consumers from being able to really get their proper due in court.
Yeah, that is an ongoing theme. Unfortunately, there's another bill that's circulating down here. I think it's Senate Bill 5 that would strip away the right for consumers to have their attorney's fees paid if they recover money against someone who has violated their rights as a consumer. And by doing that, by saying that your attorney's fees can't be paid, you have to pay your attorney yourself, that's going to close the door for a lot of people to go and seek redress, because some of these consumer claims are for $1,000 or for $5,000, and it's going to be hard to go and seek recovery for an important amount of money and also pay a lawyer. And I think that the root of that, Howard, is the fact that lawyers, particularly plaintiffs' lawyers, invest a lot in elections, and they typically support Democrats. And so this is a way to get back at lawyers who have supported the opponents of Republicans by stripping away some of the ways that they make money. Of course, in the end, the losers are the consumers and the people of West Virginia, because there are more Republicans, maybe in West Virginia, than there are Democrats now, but we're all consumers. And when you take away our rights to recover when we've been wronged, then we're all affected by that. And so the COVID liability bill, same thing. They want to take away any ability for attorneys to recover money, but what attorneys are doing is protecting consumers, and so it's the people that lose in the end.
The COVID bill is a blanket bill. I gather your point, and I heard somebody had to say last week on the floor, is that there may be value in protecting, for example, healthcare workers who are simply doing their job and something bad happens, as opposed to someone who is reckless or negligent in doing their job and something bad happens. I mean, there are distinctions there. So, you know, I get the argument that things can happen, especially in something as still unknown almost as COVID-19. If someone is honestly trying to do their job, they should be able to do that without fear of retribution. But they shouldn't be able to do something intentionally, negligently, recklessly. But this bill covers all that. This bill just doesn't make any difference what the rationale was. No action can be brought. And I think that's the problem.
Right. It's a blanket immunity, and it's not just for healthcare workers, which some states have just created these bills for the healthcare sector. Our bill covers all businesses, and so this could be a bar owner. And look, I feel for bar owners and restaurant owners. They've been hit really hard. But if you would have a bar owner who knew that his waitress was positive for COVID, but needed her to work because he didn't have anybody else to cover the shift, and said, yeah, go on out and wait on tables, and, oh, you don't have to wear a mask either. I know that sounds ridiculous that someone would do that, but under this bill, there'd be no liability. That bar owner wouldn't have any culpability if he told his waitress to go ahead and do that. And that's why it's so ridiculous, and it goes too far.
You said sort of retaliation against lawyers, and I think that's absolutely correct. It seems as if there is in both houses a retaliation mentality against teachers this year as well.
There is. We're going to hear about it on the floor today in the Senate. There's the anti-strike bill. Of course, it's already illegal in West Virginia to strike. That's already been established. But this bill takes it even further. It codifies that, makes it unlawful to go out on strike or engage in a work stoppage if you're a public employee. But it also requires the Board of Education to withhold pay from those who got on strike. And what has happened in the past is when teachers have gone out on strike, schools have been canceled, and they've come back and they've made up those days. They've made up the work that they've missed. Well, now, if you go out on strike, there's a mandatory withholding of pay under this bill. Then the other thing that really digs the knife into the back of teachers is the fact that this bill will prohibit extracurricular activities if school doesn't take place because of a strike. You know, if all the teachers are out and you can't have school, well, then there will not be a basketball game or football game or volleyball game that night. And the reason they added that clause in is because you're going to really anger parents of students who engage in extracurriculars, and those parents will turn around and blame the teachers for the fact that their kids can't play in their game that night. And having been the parent of a high school student athlete, I know how sometimes we get overly involved in our our children's lives as it pertains to athletics. And so they're playing on that maybe over enthusiasm by crazy soccer parents or football parents, and I can say that because I was one of them at one point in time. So they're playing on that too, and they're really going to cause parents to get upset at the teachers if they walk out.
Talking to State Senator Bill Ehlenfeld this morning here on the Watchdog Morning Show. Senator, in the House, there's been a lot of activity on charter schools and school vouchers, a lot of controversial activity there, but those bills have passed. I guess the voucher bill they're trying to revisit now because they realize their amendments blew up the cost on it. But nonetheless, are there similar bills coming or introduced already in the Senate as well? Or will you wait until you get the House version?
That's a good question. We will get the House version, and I think Senator Rucker might have introduced similar bills on our side. I'm not on Senate Education. Either way, we will. Those will make it to the floor. Some version of the ESA or the voucher bill and the charter school bill. So I'll have a chance to weigh in at some point on the Senate floor.
It certainly has been a big issue on the House side of things. Again, I think the fact that they've had to revisit the voucher bill is an object lesson about what's wrong with speeding this process through. The House had the voucher bill. Multiple amendments were added to it, expanded it. Democrat amendments were cut down, but were rejected. But Republican amendments were there, and then they shipped it off for passage. And nobody bothered to stop and take a look at the fiscal cost of it. And now they realize it's going to the amendments they made are going to really blow the cost out of the water, and they've had to pull it back and revisit it. And I think that's an object lesson about what's wrong with this speedy process that's going on right now.
Yeah, I agree that the faster you go, the more likely you are to overlook key details. And the idea, I think, from leadership in the House and the Senate was to move quickly in case there was an outbreak at the Capitol related to COVID. They wanted to make sure they got as much done as they could in the first couple of weeks. And as far as I know, we haven't had any issues with members or staff testing positive, but we're still moving at this rapid pace. And on the voucher bill, once it was all said and done, by one estimate, it was going to cost over $100 million, this one bill. And no one had anticipated that because they were going to give $4,600 per child for every student in a private school, parochial school, or every homeschool, and every homeschool child. So if you had four kids in public school, you decided to pull them out and homeschool them, you would receive a check for over $18,000 a year. And they didn't bother to add all that up. And it's over $100 million. So that's a serious problem. The bill itself has a lot of problems with what it might do to public education in the state. Oh, sure. But they got the fiscal impact and then the impact upon children, and there are a lot of homes where a child should not be homeschooled, and I don't take myself out of that mix. I mean, look, I work, my wife works. We're distracted by so many other things. We have no business trying to homeschool our son, and you're going to have families that think they can handle it, or maybe they just like the $4,600 per child, and you add it up with four in your household. You're going to take the money, and chances are, in a lot of these homes, they're not going to do the same job that a teacher would and that a school would in taking care of their child, educating them, nurturing them, providing them with nutrition. All of those things would go away. And for some children, the safest place they have in their world is the school that they go to from 8 until 3 or 4 every day. And there's just so many problems with that bill and the potential it's going to create to harm children in the state that I don't think it's been very well thought out at all.
Senator, let me shift gears. The Intermediate Court of Appeals is coming back again. It's an issue that's been up the last couple of years, and they're making another effort to get an Intermediate Court of Appeals. I think that is in the Senate, right?
It It is, and it's going to be on first reading today. It was before Senate Finance on Friday, which is a committee that I sit on, and yeah, this will pass. In later this week, it'll pass out of the Senate. I'm confident without any problem. I'm not a proponent of it. I don't support it. It's not necessary. It's going to cost $8 or $9 million a year. It's going to create a layer of the judiciary that's unnecessary. Our Supreme Court is very good, very efficient, has no problems at all handling the appellate work and the appellate needs in our state. And what we're going to do, one of the things that bothers me the most, Howard, is the fact that we're going to create two new courts, a northern and southern intermediate court, so two sections of this intermediate court. Each court will have 3 judges, and the judges will all be appointed. And guess who gets to appoint all these judges? Big Jim. Big Jim gets to pick 6 new judges, gets to pack the intermediate court. They're each going to make $142,500 a year. So he gets to hand out 6 political favors. And now these judges will eventually face the voters, but it's staggered. And so they'll either face the voters in 2, 4, or 6 years, depending upon which slot you get. The best slot to get is the one where you don't face the voters for 6 years.
For
so
6 years.
Pay attention to see who gets that one. That means they're really a favorite of the governor if they get that 6-year appointment.
Every once in a while, though, something good does happen, or at least it has so far. I guess it could resurface. You alerted the public to what I thought was a disastrous bill that was pending involving social work, social services, and discrimination. And I forget, it was SB 13, I think, or 12, I can't remember. Anyways, a lot of public outcry over that once it became public, and you alerted people a lot to that. That bill was at least pulled initially. Is it still under consideration, or will it come back, do you think? Or did that succeed in removing it?
Well, great point, because that's what we have to do. When we have some of these bills that are really far-reaching and just flat-out wrong, the public needs to know about it, and that's what we did. Myself and others raised awareness about it. That bill would have permitted CPS workers to decide to decline services to children based upon religious issues. If the child was, or the worker's own religious beliefs, if the child was gay and the worker didn't believe in that, they could decline services. If the child's parents weren't married, which is frowned upon in some religions, that would have been grounds to deny services. If the child didn't practice any religion, that would be grounds to decline to provide services. So to answer your question, that bill, because of the outcry, was pulled from the agenda that day, but I'm told it's coming back and it will be modified in some manner. I haven't seen the modified version yet. The way it was described to me, it's still going to be a discriminatory bill. It still will allow for workers to be guided by their religious preferences, but they're going to try to limit the scope of it. I just don't know how they're going to do that until I see it.
It's a fairly typical technique right now. Frame this as religious freedom when, in point of fact, it becomes a matter of discrimination. I think, quite frankly, we saw the same thing in the House with the charter school bill, where Democrats offered an amendment to say that you couldn't have, I can't remember if it's charter school or ESAs now that I'm thinking about it. But anyways, you couldn't provide state funding to any entity that would not agree to non-discrimination. And that amendment failed, which means that the ESA money could go to any school that chooses to, even if they choose to discriminate based on sex or religion or what have you, they could get state money. That just seems totally wackadoodle to me, but that's the way it's working out this year.
That's right. I followed that in the House a little bit, and that issue came up last year on an unrelated matter. But we were talking about one of the members of the Senate. One of my colleagues in the Senate has a school that he owns and operates. I think it's called the Victory Baptist Academy. And right on his website, there were indications that certain people, certain children would not be eligible to attend this school based upon physical disability. You know, if they weren't able to get around on their own, they weren't going to be permitted in the school. There was a part of the website that said if you've ever been pregnant, don't bother applying, or if you become pregnant, you're not allowed in our school. And then some other really interesting disqualifiers for children to attend that school. Well, that school would benefit from the monies that we're talking about. So that amendment was important and necessary to make sure that we're not allowing state taxpayer dollars to be used in a way that would permit discriminatory practices. But that amendment failed.
Senator, briefly here at the end, are there other things that we should be watching for that you're keeping an eye on that's coming down the pike in the Senate?
Yes. Two things. One, there's, I guess most important for our area is this Senate Bill 32, which was pulled from an agenda, but it's coming back. It's related to how we value the production of natural gas in the state. And obviously that's a big economic driver in the northern part of the state, northern panhandle, and then down into Wetzel and Tyler and Doddridge counties. If this bill were to pass, it would completely change how tax revenue is determined. And counties like Marshall and Ohio and Brooke would also be impacted. Any county that has any significant level of gas production would lose millions of dollars in funding that's used for roads, public safety, senior services, you name it, and tens of millions of dollars I'm talking about. This is a bill written by an industry lawyer, being driven by the industry lobbyist, and there's bipartisan. This isn't going to be a 24-9 vote or 25-9 vote. There are people, Republicans, that are very much against it. I'm against it. But there's going to be a lot of Republicans that support it. So keep an eye on Senate Bill 32. It would have a huge impact on our area, strip away a lot of funding. Then there's another bill related to criminal justice reform that is a heavy lift, too big of a lift for this type of a session, but it's being pushed through as well. That would totally rewrite the criminal chapter of our code. That's another one to keep your ears open for.
All right. Well, if things happen that we need to know about, you be sure and let us know, because the public's having a hard time keeping track of some of this stuff this year because of the way the COVID regulations are in place. So it's critical that we keep the flow of communication going. So let us know what's going on down there if anything important happens.
I will do that.
Senator, always good talking to you. I appreciate it this morning, and we will chat again very soon, I'm sure.
Okay. Thanks, Howard. Take care.
Thank you. I appreciate it. State Senator Bill Ehlenfeld just kind of updating us on a couple of things that are pending down in the legislature in Charleston. It's 8:34, 26 before the hour here on the Watchdog Morning Show. We are looking at 36 degrees. Temperatures bumped up a little bit, 36 degrees at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport. Here at my home studios in the Elm Grove section of Wheeling, and at the Robinson Auto Group studios in downtown Wheeling, in the heart of the Ohio Valley. We are hitting a COVID milestone today in terms of nationwide deaths, but we're also seeing COVID numbers begin to go down. Vaccination rates are going up. That's all good. The governor is releasing some restrictions on our pandemic regulations, if you will. So we'll talk about all of that with Howard Gamble from the Wheeling, Ohio County Health Department coming up next here on the Watchdog Morning Show. 8:35, 25 before the hour.
The WTRF Channel 7 News Update is brought to you by Thomas Auto Centers, Mall Road, St. Clairsville. Get the best deal at Thomas Auto Centers.
Now it's
All right, back in a minute. Biff should have Howard on, but I'm not totally sure, so we'll see. Let me know if he calls. back in a minute.
The road. They had done it earlier against Oklahoma State, and now they get Texas. 84-82 the final score as West Virginia splits the season series with the Longhorns. The victory puts West Virginia at 15-6 overall and now 8-4 in conference play. Join us tonight beginning at 7 for the Bob Huggins Show. That is today's Mountaineer Report, brought to us by Kroger, the official grocer of WVU Athletics. I'm Tony Caridi on the Mountaineer Sports Network from Learfield, IMG College.
Hello, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm Darnell Foster. With a look at your local weather forecast to start your work week. You're going to see mostly cloudy skies with a few raindrops mixing in with some snowflakes through the day. The daytime high in the lower 40s. Your overnight low of 33 degrees with a few light snow showers expected. Otherwise, mostly cloudy conditions. A milder day with temperatures in the low 40s for your Tuesday. Have yourself a great day, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm Darnell Foster.
You're listening to The Watchdog, now on FM at 97.7 and 98.1. Sounds so clear. You can hear Bill DeFabio's mustache grow. The Watchdog, live and local talk radio, just the way you like it.
The Valley's most interesting conversations continue now on the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe, brought to you in part by Wheeling Hospital.
It is 8:42, 18 to the hour here on the Watchdog Morning Show. 36 degrees at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport. Winds at 15 miles an hour, makes it feel like 27. Not too bad compared to where we've been. 36 degrees at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport. Some light rain coming down. 36 at my home studios here in the Elm Grove section of Wheeling. And 36 degrees at the Robinson Auto Group Studios downtown Wheeling, in the heart of the Ohio Valley. A lot of stuff I want to get into coming up. A couple of things out of the legislature we'll get into. Want to talk more about COVID coming up in a minute or two. Hopefully to hear from Howard Gamble at the Ohio County Health Department on that. And there's a story that crossed my desk this morning, except I can't find it right now, Biffy, that basically says that everything we do is defined anymore by politics. Whether it's the TV shows we watch, the brands we choose to buy, even the friends that we make anymore, it all comes down to politics. Are you a Trumpian or not? Are you a Democrat or a Republican? You know, I am about as political as anybody could get, but that's not something that is, I mean, that's just not the way I define things. So we'll talk more about that coming up in a couple of minutes. Everything defined anymore by politics. Literally everything that we do. Get to that in a bit. But first, let me welcome to the show the administrator of the Ohio County Health Department, Howard Gamble. Howard, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So, you must be getting a lot more vaccines because you certainly have vaccine clinics going all the time. The vaccine's becoming more easily available to you?
No, it's how we schedule them. Even though we can run 10 vaccine lines here at this vaccine center, how we schedule it until we have large doses is about 100 to 200 a day. And so some of that is because this is the second dose individuals from previous clinics, or they're the first dose part of higher education or another group we were asked to vaccinate. So we vaccinate about 6 days a week, 5 to 6, but sometimes it's only 100 to 200 vaccines at a time. We do have to wait for larger supplies, and those larger supplies come usually on the Thursday clinics, in which our partners come up from the hospital, Health Right, and the health department and emergency management. And we have larger clinics. Unfortunately, there are only about 300 right now.
So you're having daily clinics, but you're not necessarily seeing more vaccine available, at least not right now.
Yeah, and the daily clinics are scheduled. Previous individuals are scheduled because they were a selected group. What we haven't got into is the routine daily clinics from individuals who are registered on the state database, and you are sent an appointment, and I vaccinate from 9 to 3:30, 4 o'clock based on those that are registered. And so it's a rolling clinic. Every day you'll see new individuals or returning individuals. There's still a challenge with the vaccine coming into the state and the vaccine going out to the local entities from the state distribution centers.
I'm not seeing or hearing as many people complaining about not being able to get the vaccine scheduled since we went to the statewide scheduling system. Has that made a difference in Ohio County, for example?
Well, it's made a difference that people can get scheduled. The issues that we hear are, I've been scheduled and people around me are vaccinated and I'm frustrated. Now that's what we do here. And that's a concern because they hear of a friend that's been vaccinated, or they hear anecdotal information from family and friends who said younger people are getting it, which is not true. Or even we've heard on occasions that someone from out of state is getting vaccinated, which is not true. There's more explanation to it. So there's less complaining that it took me a while to get scheduled. We can get scheduled. The Everbridge system works really well. Now, turning it around to pushing out to individuals who are scheduled to a vaccine center is a little more challenging. We don't have the vaccine on a regular schedule, and two, the system to push you out on the scheduled is not 100% yet.
So what do you say, and I think you've just said it, but what do you say to people who are still saying, hey, I'm 80 years old, or my grandmother is 80 years old, and you know she's got some medical conditions, and she's been waiting and waiting. Why isn't she getting her vaccine? What do you say to those people?
Well, we have to be patient. And in public health here in West Virginia, we know we're going to be vaccinating late into the summer. And not everybody 80 and over, 70 and over, 65 and over is going to get vaccinated right now. It is going to take a while. The 65 and over matches the CDC standard. That's about 9,000 people in the county. So it'll take a while and needs to be patient. Eventually vaccine will be here and the appointments will be scheduled for those who are registered. I do and always remind individuals, get registered. Don't assume you can come up to the vaccine center or to a pharmacy that's participating these days and walk in and get on some magical list. Our standby list is extremely small, and we discard it at the end of the day. And the standbys are only for a unused dose or two. So I have a 5-vial Pfizer or a 10-dose vial of Moderna. You may have one or two that you have to use up at the end of the day. So standbys are relatively small. Rely more on scheduling, stay safe, and wait for your appointment call.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second, because I've heard people say that why they offered it to a volunteer before they offered it to me. The reality is that the vaccines need to be used in a certain period of time. And if you have some extra, and the extra would often come, I gather, from being able to get that extra dose out sometimes and things like that. If you have some extra, you need to get it to somebody right away. So that's what those standby lists are for.
That's what they are. And the standbys are usually used at the end of the day, not during the clinic, because you have people scheduled. Now, extra doses, either out of a Pfizer or the limited extra doses out of Moderna, are not a guarantee. One, you can have a needle fail. They come apart. It happens. You could have a needle drop on the ground and it's contaminated. You can't use it. You could have other problems. So an individual who thinks, I'll go up there real early and I'll get on a standby list, not a guarantee. That means you're just on a short list, and you need to make sure you're registered more than you need to make sure you've come up and registered on some clinic standby.
You mentioned pharmacies. So there are other ways to get vaccines, and I'm not sure how this all works. I mean, you can go to a pharmacy and get a vaccine, is that right? Or you can go elsewhere and get a vaccine?
Right. Limited pharmacies in the state are now offering vaccines, and those appointments are through the Everbridge system. So it's not I can walk into a pharmacy and get it. You are still pushed by the way of the Everbridge registration system. So they are vaccinating across the state. That was part of a federal initiative that certain vaccines or certain pharmacies got picked up. We've had pharmacies participating in the program since the beginning, and they vaccinated some smaller groups by contract, such as a long-term care or an assisted living or a school system. So they are participating. Other than that, in the High County, this is it. The vaccine center right here, and some of our limited pharmacies.
Can someone go to a pharmacy and ask that they be vaccinated there, or does the Everbright, whatever it is, does that system assign them to the pharmacy as opposed to the vaccination clinic?
Well, they'll have an option. They'll either be assigned or be able to choose the pharmacy or the vaccine center. And it may be the pharmacy doesn't have vaccine, therefore they're closed that day, and the vaccine center has vaccine. So they make a choice where the vaccine is. Sometimes it's a matter of convenience. Take, for example, in the state of West Virginia, not all counties have pharmacies. And not all have pharmacies that are active in the Everbridge and the state's vaccine system. So you may have to go somewhere. You may have to go to the next county or to the county health department's clinic that they have scheduled. So it can be a challenge, but if you're in the Everbridge system, it's a whole lot easier to find a vaccine and a vaccine center and get vaccinated.
So you can't just walk into is Kroger one of the clinics, one of the pharmacies? I think they are, right?
Well, it's our understanding, and it's the information doesn't come to the counties very well, but it's our understanding from participating. We have one Kroger and one Walgreens participating in this county in the vaccine program. Very limited, though, and some of it it's still by schedule. So walking in and knocking on the door, remember, they're doing other business, retail, other prescriptions, and they have certain times they can do vaccines for COVID. So it's not always a guarantee I can walk into those and get vaccinated. You still need to get registered, wait for the call, email or text, depending on how you register, and get your first or your second dose.
Talking to Howard Gamble from the Ohio County Health Department. Howard, the governor is loosening some restrictions, restaurants and other businesses. Is that wise? Is this the right time to be loosening restrictions? I mean, things are getting better, I guess. Vaccines are getting out and numbers are going down. Should we be loosening restrictions?
Well, the loosening of restrictions apply to really some smaller areas, such as restaurants, or we can have some live entertainment. Others, it's not going to happen. So as long as we adhere to the main components of the restrictions, such as social distancing, if it's 75%, the facility is 75% seating. If the bar area is limited to 75% seating, it's 75% seating, not 75 seating, and then everybody can fill in standing in between the tables and the areas. If we do this and continue to wear a mask, wash our hands, social distance, and above all, avoid large crowds, we can maintain the disease down a little bit. When you introduce vaccines, no matter what disease, you see a dip in rates, whether it's infection rates and death rates. You will see a dip, but it will take a while. So introducing a vaccine as early as we did in mid-December, we have not yet seen the benefits of that on a large scale. That won't happen for several months, where we're going to see a drastic dip in cases because we have people vaccinated. The loosening of restrictions helps us, just as a society. There are still provisions in place where we try to limit what's going on in hopes that we don't continuously pass this virus around. But I think it was time. It's needed. I think people are ready, but we have to still follow some basic public health precautions.
We're likely to hit, maybe have hit it already today, a nationwide milestone of 500,000 deaths from COVID. Setting that aside, which is a horrific number, the other numbers are kind of going down, both locally and statewide and nationally, I guess, right? I mean, we're seeing fewer positive tests We're seeing fewer hospitalizations. We seem to be going in the right direction. Would you agree with that?
Well, a little bit. This weekend when I did cases, for 2 days, 2 days worth of positive cases, we were at 25. So we're not dipping down to these low single-digit numbers. We still have cases occurring. A lot of these cases are younger. Now, in the months prior, we saw individuals who were older, a lot of nursing home cases, assisted living cases. Now we're seeing younger, anywhere from the single-digit children up to teens, 20s and 30s and 40-year-olds. We're seeing more of this. And sometimes it's we get into a comfort zone. Everything should be okay. Let's go out and do things. And we let our guard down, and we have cases pick up again. And we still need to keep our guard up. The cases are dropping. Death rates are dropping, but we still have cases. And as of this weekend, I had 25 cases over a 2-day period.
Howard, a year ago, would you have ever thought we'd be talking about the kind of numbers and the kind of situation we're talking about today?
No. When this first started back in January of 2020, we thought this was going to be relatively quick, such as the SARS and MERS prior to that we could control it very quickly. But by March of 2020, we realized this was going to be a larger issue for public health. Still having cases 1 year later, you look historically at diseases, whether it's influenza or polio or other diseases where it took a little while to roll out a vaccine, you still have cases. We will still see spikes. We'll still see a problem in the future. What we're trying to do now with a vaccine and with these public health control measures is manage a disease so that we can live pretty normally. Keep in mind the flu's still there. Polio is still there. We have an active virus or vaccine for both. The polio works a whole lot better because it's only so many strains out there. And it's been around and injected into children on a schedule so as they get adults that we don't see cases. But it's still a challenge. And it will be a challenge going forward. We got to get it to a manageable level now.
All right. Well, Howard, I appreciate your time this morning. I know you're working hard. I appreciate it. Thanks for joining us. I have to take a break, so I'll talk to you soon.
All righty. We'll see you.
Thanks a lot. 9 o'clock on the Watchdog Morning Show. More conversation coming up.
The Watchdog is FM 98.1, AM 1600 WKKX Wheeling, FM 97.7, AM 1370 WVLY Moundsville.
The ABC News is brought to you by Thomas Auto Centers, Mall Road, St. Clairsville. Get the best deal at Thomas Auto Centers.
I'm sure.
Hello?